Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to another edition of Live Better. I am your host, Sharice Cross, and we have another exciting segment for you today. I don't know about you, but in the last 2 years, there have been many, many opportunities. But have we owned them? Today, we're talking about owning your opportunity. I have a guest with us today that is going to show us and give us some examples of how we can do this. Our guest is Julliete Hall. Thank you, Julliete, for coming on today.
Thank you, Pastor Sharice.
Let me tell you a little bit about Miss Julliete. She is the author of Own Your Opportunities, a story of self-discovery and self-determination. It will be released in October. Her professional background includes banking operations, management consulting of franchisees, and external affairs. She's also a graduate of Spelman College and the Terry College of Business at University of Georgia. And she is a member of the illustrious A Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and the Links Incorporated. She loves tennis, cardio boxing, and has traveled to over 20 countries. My favorite, I love traveling. Welcome, welcome again to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we are here. It has been a couple of years. It has been a couple of years. It's been a couple of opportunities, I love to say. We have been, we've seen people go through something called the Great Resignation. We've heard about that. I'm thinking about your journey. Let's start off with where you started in your journey, and then how did we get to owning your opportunity? Let's start there.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for having me on your show.
Yes.
And I started in Columbia, South Carolina. I'm a Southern girl,
All right.
born and raised there. And I left Columbia to come to Atlanta to attend Spelman College. And I attended college with the thought that I would become a broadcast journalist. I thought that I was going to be the next Jane Pauley on the Today Show. But the truth of the matter is, when I got to Spelman, I got distracted. I had way too much fun. And I wasn't owning my opportunities at Spelman. I was, except for the opportunity to live life and have fun.
Absolutely.
And there was a opportunity cost to that. So that by the time that I graduated from Spelman, which I did, thank the Lord, I knew that I wasn't going to go back to Columbia to live. I didn't want to go back there. I did not want to go to grad school right away, so I knew I needed a job. And I didn't see myself going to the path of broadcast journalism because I had not owned my opportunities in college. I did not take the necessary courses. I didn't do summer internships. And when I saw up all my other friends, they had their plans of where they were going to go. I didn't have any. And so I honestly, I was like, Lord, what am I going to do? And I applied to all the banks that came to Spelman College. They were recruiting new talent that they could develop. And I got denied by all of the banks except for one. And that was the bank that I chose to start my career with. I was very grateful for that. And I moved to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to go through the management development program at this particular bank. But Pastor Sharice, after 3 years of working at the bank, I decided that that path was not for me. I learned a lot while I was working there. I learned a lot about management. I learned about operating a budget. I learned about dealing with difficult leadership. But I knew that there was something more for me. I knew that I just didn't feel alive working at that particular bank. And so it got to a point where I would go into the parking lot and my heart would just be filled with dread. And I knew it was time to change because, you know, at 24 years old, I was already hating my work. I enjoyed some of the people that I worked with, particularly the people that I supervised, but I knew that I just felt like I was walking into a cage every day, and that was not the life that God had intended for me.
That is beautiful. Let me tell you several things I love about your story. The first thing is you partied.
I
That's
had
the
my
first thing.
fun.
Party. You know, well, I'm a parent. I want my daughter to finish. I want her to graduate. And you were like, I love the fact that you partied and you accepted the fact that, hey, I did what I wanted to do. And yes, I could have pivoted and I should have, but I didn't. But I took the opportunity that was given to me. I still, okay, so even though our kids may not do exactly what we want them to do, or we may not do what we think, I feel like you didn't give up.
No,
You
no,
shifted.
not
Even
at
at that
all.
age, you shifted.
Not at all. And I, you learn to be resilient when you face adverse situations. And so, yes, I did. I had fun in college. And that was really because, truth of the matter is, when I was growing up in Columbia, I was on lockdown. I was sheltered. So I didn't have as much fun. I was always a studious child. I graduated top of my high school class. So I was into the books, a nerd, if you will. And I said, you know, when I'm going to college, I'm going to have my freedom. Nobody's looking over my shoulder, except my big sister. She was a senior when I was a freshman.
Okay.
So she did look after me. But for the most part, I just lived life. No regrets, except for when it came time to find a job after I graduated. But I did, there was a path there. And let me tell you what I learned is that it doesn't matter how many mistakes you make in life. God can always restore you back to purpose.
Yes.
And while I took a meandering path, trying to figure out what I was going to do, when I approached graduation, I believe God opened up a door for me to enter into this bank and to learn. And while it wasn't the most ideal environment for me, it was a learning opportunity. And even in those dark moments, those dark situations or challenging situations, I'll say, I felt like God always provided a person there or people to be a compass and a guide and a mentor, if you will. And I found such a mentor at the bank who took me under her wing. She was an executive at the bank who worked in human resources, and she nurtured me. And she knew that I was not happy there, but the advice that she gave me is that no matter how challenging the situation is, no matter how difficult the leadership or the people around you may be, you want to learn everything that you can. And that's my advice to people now, especially women when they are in work situations that they may not want to be in. The opportunity that you have is be grateful that you that you're on the payroll somewhere, number one. But number two, it's an opportunity to learn something new. It's even when you're working with difficult people, it's an opportunity to learn how you don't want to be, because as a leader, you can lead by intimidation or inspiration, and the choice is yours.
Oh my goodness.
Today, we're going to be making some pickles. Pickles is a Haitian condiment. You know, you have cabbage, carrots, shallots, bell peppers and onions, white vinegar, and you let it sit in the refrigerator and chill.
I was sitting with a credit score of about 500, and I was reading something that said I could buy a house, and I absolutely didn't believe it. We came to NACA because my credit got destroyed. Someone broke into our apartment while we were both out of there, basically stole almost everything we had. That landlord that I was talking about, she came after us for thousands of dollars. Then I found NACA, signed up for the workshop, sat there, listened. I heard it again. Credit score doesn't matter. I was like, okay. We did the workshop in May of 2020. We closed on this house December 1st, 2020.
I love the fact that every situation is an opportunity to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And if we look at life like that, because obviously we're not going to be at the best place
Right.
everywhere we are, but somehow society has told us that everything's going to be peaches and cream, and it's not necessarily peaches and cream. But I need to know how to make peaches and cream while I'm there. How can I learn? How can I shift and posit my mind to that perspective that I'm here to learn?
Right.
This is not the best situation for me, but I can learn something. I want you to speak to that young lady who is at a corporate
Mm-hmm.
office, or maybe an office somewhere where she's feeling really frustrated right now.
Yeah, so if that woman is you, let me share with you the place where I was when I was 24 years old, and I had already been with the bank for maybe 3.5 years. It got to a point where I had to make a choice that my quality of life means more to me than any amount of money and any kind of title. And I chose to live, not just survive. I want to live. And I arrived at this moment actually on a lunch break to one of my one of my favorite restaurants. I took a lunch break from the bank, and I was having this conversation with God, Pastor Cherise, and I said, there's got to be something better than this. And I'm not quite sure what I need to do, but I know that there's something else out there for me, and I want your plan for that for my life. And so as I was eating my lunch, I actually was thinking about what's important to me. What do I want to get out of a job or out of a career? I won't just say a job, but a career. And I decided that I wanted to work for a company that also works for me. And I guess you could say I developed this mental formula of what that would look like. What does it mean to have a company that you work for to also work for you? Well, you have to ask yourself, well, what's important? And so I developed in my mind at that time, at 24 years old, if you can believe it, 3 things that were important to me. And I call them now the 3 Ps, which I actually reference in my book that we'll speak on a little bit later. But the first P is I want the principles of that company, or you could say values, to be consistent with mine. And so that was the first thing that was important to me is, what does the organization stand for? Does it walk the talk? So that was important to me. Not just words on a wall, because that's marketing. The second P that was important to me is people. Will this organization invest in people? Will it grow its people? Does it take care of? Does it nurture? Does it advance its people? So that was important to me. A lot of organizations, and particularly at banks, they focus more on the shareholders, but very little emphasis is placed on the people within the organization, at least the bank that I worked for at the time. And so I wanted to work for a company where the principles were consistent with mine and where there was a focus on people. And then the third P that was important to me is product. Is this a product that I can rave about? Is this a product that I can believe in? Am I going to enjoy working around this product. And when I was working at the bank, I was not excited about other people's money. I can tell you that. But at this particular restaurant, as I was eating the food, I realized, you know what, I can get excited about this because this happened to be one of my favorite restaurants. And that's when the epiphany hit me. And I realized, you know, I'm already a customer, a raving fan of this particular product, of this particular brand. They have they seem to have great people working there, and they seem to be an organization with real values and a focus on the community. And so it really checked all of my boxes. And that's really how I made that first pivot, if you will, from one company to the next. And it worked out great. It took a long time for me to onboard that particular organization, but I eventually did, and I was with them for a long time. And that's where I really learned and developed and grew as a professional woman. It was a wonderful experience, corporate experience there. Highs and lows that I know we'll talk about, but overall, I learned that I have an opportunity, I have a choice that if I'm in a situation that doesn't work for me, I don't have to stay.
I love that. Everyone has the opportunity with choice.
Yes.
Everyone has the opportunity with choice.
And everyone has an opportunity with free will. God gives us free will.
Absolutely.
And, you know, we execute that free will when we want to have fun, as I did.
Yes, yes.
But you can also exercise that free will when it comes to engineering your life or becoming the woman or man that you want to be.
3 P's.
3 P's.
Principles, people, and product. I love it. I love it. So when we're looking for where we're going to pivot to, if it's a corporation, whatever it is, I love the fact that you said, listen, I need to know, what are your values? Do they align with mine? That's in any relationship, not only business, personal relationships. We need to know that. That is so good. People. Once again, I think that's where we're having this shift with people right now, as people are not going back to companies where they've decided, yeah, I'm leaving. And it was because the people weren't treated right, but the product was. So we were concerned about the product, but not the people.
Yeah.
So good, so good. The people helping to promote the product, the people who work behind the product need help, and you need to be able to value them as well. That is so rich, so rich.
You know what? And I want to pivot for a second there, because since we're in the vein of talking about P's. Now that was the 24-year-old Julliete having that conversation, but fast forward that 20 years later.
Yes, yes.
And I could actually add a 4th P.
Okay.
To making a pivot, and that would be purpose.
Hey. Yes.
I may not have known it at 24, but I certainly discovered it 20 years later.
Yes.
It was, and purpose isn't something that you really have to look for. Purpose is already inside of you. And it took me a while to understand that. So as you're making a pivot, wherever you are, whether it's in the workplace, whether it's even in a personal situation, you could add a 4th P, and that is pivot for purpose.
I love it. Oh, I love it.
Where do you think the root of problems lie when it comes to creating stable, loving relationships?
You attract basically who you are. So if you want to attract a better partner, become a better person. And if I'm grinding, setting myself for building my family wealth, generational wealth, it would be not right for me to be with someone who actually has a spending problem.
Well, you better. Yes, sir.
want some type of home, right? Or a lot of people are aspiring to own a business and or at least work for themselves. So having this relationship with a bank is only going to support most of the life goals that people have that are pushing them closer to financial freedom.
That's why credit unions came about, community banks came about, to help people that don't have enormous amount of money to get the same banking services that a wealthy person would offer. So I would suggest to anyone, if you come to Renaissance Bank, you would get treated as like anyone else.
So, as you're 24 years old and you work through with this company that has good food, that's all I heard. It was good food. That's all I can think about.
And I
right
am
now.
a foodie,
You
so
listen.
you can never go wrong with food.
We twinning. We twinning. We're going to eat.
Wanna
So
eat. Mhm.
you're there. What happened next?
What happened after I onboarded the second organization? Yes. So
what was the next opportunity,
the next
or what did that look
opportunity?
like?
Yeah. So, oh my goodness. And where would I start there? I was so intentional about what I wanted, and I learned that when you approach life with intentionality, you can maximize the opportunities that were presented in front of you. And so my opportunities, gosh, and this is in no random order, but let's just start from a perspective of leadership. I had an opportunity to work with great leaders, wise leaders, leaders who understand the concept of servant leadership, which is really about people and leading people from the heart, from a heart condition, from a stance of character, and I.
Well, can you slow down for us, baby? Give us servant leadership versus positional leadership or other types of leadership.
Other leadership, yeah. So there are different styles of leadership, and a lot of leadership. Different types of leadership, or if you're going through leadership training, they often teach you techniques of leadership, but leadership really starts with you. And it is my personal belief that self-discovery is the genesis of true leadership, because you really have to know what's inside of you. You have to know the gifts that are inside of you. And maximize those gifts and share those gifts with the world. I believe that that God has given us all an inherent ability, a gift, and that gift sources our confidence, our energy, our prosperity. Our gifts allow us to serve humanity, and so servant leadership. It starts with the person, it starts with the individual, the heart of the individual. And I just believe that true servant leaders, they lead, number one, from their strengths, area of strengths, but then number two, they take their gifts and their natural abilities to help the people around them to achieve a certain goal. Juxtapose that with other styles of leadership, and it may, leadership is, some people, again, I said earlier, they may lead by intimidation versus inspiration. You can look at the world, you don't really have to look very far to see examples of leaders in this world that are self-serving versus serving people.
Yes.
You just don't have to look far around that, especially, unfortunately, here in America. In any realm of influence, albeit political or educational or even in spiritual realms of influence.
Absolutely.
You see abuses of power.
Absolutely.
Just because someone has a title does not make them a leader.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, but servant leadership, in my view,
Mhm.
starts with self
Mm.
and self-discovery. I believe that's the genesis.
Okay. Thank you.
And I will also add that God has, you go to the Bible,
Mhm.
and when God told Adam, when he created mankind,
Mhm.
he wanted us to have dominion over the earth.
Mhm.
Now the scriptures would say dominion over the birds, the birds in the air, the fish in the sea, the animals per se. But God never told us to dominate people.
Mm.
Um, so, when you unpack that, you just get an understanding that leadership is, it starts with you.
Mm.
And let's not forget that the root word of leadership is lead.
Mhm.
And lead is an action verb.
Yes, it is.
So that means that leaders move,
Mm.
right? Leaders move themselves, they move the people around them, they help people get and themselves from point A to point B.
Leaders move. That just first of all, she gave a whole sermon.
I'm not
Then
preaching.
she turned around and did a whole leadership class just in 5 minutes. Oh my goodness, I love it. Leaders move. It's an action word.
It
Yes,
is.
it's an action
It's
word.
not passive.
Mm.
Not a passive verb. Lead is an action verb.
And it's to help the people. Oh, okay. I'm gonna get off of that because we got a lot. So we're in this space. You're in this journey through those 20 years, you say, at this particular place. Let's talk about those highs and those lows
Mhm.
and what that looked like and
Right.
helped you to come out of those
And
opportunities. What
I
came
think
out of
that's
those
important.
opportunities?
And I'm so glad you asked the question, because the first thing I want you to understand is that there's no such thing as a perfect company, because there's no such thing as perfect people. So let's start there.
Let's talk about it. Yes.
I worked for an amazing organization. Even I could even say before this organization at the bank, it wasn't the ideal situation for me, but I learned. And going into this company that I worked for, I had many opportunities to grow and to develop, learning from just amazing, smart people, number one. The exposure that I achieved through traveling to not only, I never really traveled when I grew up. So there was a lot of the world that I didn't see, but I certainly made up for it. I got to travel to many countries doing, actually teaching servant leadership, but I also traveled within the United States doing my core work, which was consulting franchisees.
Okay.
I had those opportunities. And honestly, for the most part, I just had fun. And I worked for an organization that rewarded its people very well, compensated its people very well, provided for its people very well in different ways. So ate free lunch, of course.
Oh,
that was all good.
It's always, that's how you get me. Yes.
Yes. So those were some of the highs. And I went back to school finally to obtain my graduate degree, my MBA, at the University of Georgia, which the company provided tuition reimbursement for that. So a lot of opportunities that I was able to take advantage of. And those were the good things, but there were challenges too. And those challenges really came for me in different ways. Number one, I started on a team where I was the only woman, the only Black person or person of color. And so I'm on this team, and I'm on a team with white men. I was the youngest. I didn't grow up in this organization, and I wasn't married. A lot of the men were married. So I was just diverse from every single perspective. And sometimes it's hard being the only one. So that is a challenge. And then when you're working with people who aren't used to being around people like you, it's a challenge for them. So yeah, there were many instances with people that I had, and I don't think that these instances are a result of anyone being a bad person. I believe that the people that I work with are, are really good people. But I do believe that unconscious biases are
Absolutely.
there. They exist within everybody, including myself. And so there were situations, comments, well, I don't travel with women, that's one thing, or there was a situation where I remember early on in my career, we're at a team retreat, and the men on the team wanted to take a team bonding trip, but the trip they wanted to go to couldn't include women.
Wow.
So there were moments where I had to really stand up for myself. And I look back at those situations, not with resentment at all, because I needed those challenging moments to sharpen me. I needed those challenging moments, pain points, if you will, to help me to develop my voice. And I just believe that those tough situations really help define your adversity quotient and your resilience. So I've learned that when I went through those challenging situations, and there were many others. I mean, anytime you're working with people, there's going to be conflict.
Yes.
Everyone's not going to agree with
That's
you,
right.
and you're not going to agree with everybody. And you have to learn how to navigate through those situations. You have to learn how to be mature, develop maturity when you're told no.
Wow.
So even the challenging situations are opportunities to help grow you, to help develop you, to help sharpen your leadership, to help develop your empathy for people, depending on what the situation is.
Oh my goodness, I love it. I love that our challenges can develop into opportunities.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
So your book is called Own Your Opportunities.
Yes.
Which I love, because there are many. We have many opportunities.
Yes.
And I want us to think about that. Think about the fact that we have many opportunities. I want you to know that this book is going to be coming out, and you can find out more information about this journey and how to own your opportunity. You can go to jullietehall.com, and then where else can we go?
You can go to Amazon, or you can go to Barnes and Noble, or you can go to anywhere that you purchase books. If you, so you can certainly go online to order your book. I would appreciate that because the book actually really goes a little bit deeper into the discussion that we're having right now about making the pivot, recognizing when you've outgrown a situation, broadening your exposure, how to handle or cope with grief when there is a loss of a dream. So yes, and every chapter is a talking point of how to own your opportunities. And it is a story of self-discovery and self-determination. Own Your Opportunities is a personal development book, a career and business motivation book. And what I labored when I wrote the book. The book tells a story, but at the end of the book, it provides strategies and tools for self-regulation and self-discovery.
I love it. Thank you for coming on the show today to give us the opportunity to learn. One of the opportunities we have to learn. I cannot wait to read this book. I love that you provide strategies. We love the story, but we need strategies on how to do this. So I really thank you for taking the time out to come and share. And I pray that you all receive what you needed today and that you go and check out what's going on here. We all have opportunities right now. Let's start owning them. This is your host, Sharice Cross. This is Live Better. We thank you for coming and thank you for showing up today. Share this. Make sure that you share this. Let us know what you thought about what we said, what was said. Let our girl know that she